Welcome back, Purple Eagle fans. We're into the final stretches of our conversation with Simon Gray. And Simon, let's turn to something a little bit more positive. We just talked a little bit about coaching changes and really expectations of the program, but let's talk about the improved communications. Certainly you and I hear quite a bit about we aren't communicating enough with our fans or in ways that are reaching our fans. So perhaps we can talk about the ways and strategies that we're implementing to improve our communications with our fans.
Yeah, so in addition to individual communication, one of the things that you implemented this year was the survey. And I was incredibly happy with the amount of feedback that we got. You know, some was tough to hear, right? But that's how it goes, and that's what we need to hear. That's oftentimes what we need to hear the most. You know, we get a lot of feedback throughout the year, and I don't want anyone ever to think that we blow it off. We consider it. There are some things that we can do, and there are some things that we don't do, and that's just part of the game. And I think people understand that, right? But we tried a podcast, or we've done a podcast led under your leadership as a mode of communication. We have enhanced out of our PR office the amount of information that's coming out and the medium that is coming out. We've enhanced our video capabilities within the website, so I hope those things aren't lost on folks. But we also want to hear, what else do folks want? What other mediums are there for us to communicate? Because we're always looking, and I think we have varying success with what we're doing. This question and answer is hopefully a way to get started on these type of modes for communication. We've thought about newsletters. You know, should we do a newsletter? And some of these things, you know, have run their course. And most people aren't communicating that way. Some people still benefit from that, but the mass doesn't. A lot of people communicate via social media now, and so we've ramped up our efforts via social media to communicate. Sometimes I wonder whether it's how we're communicating or the message that we're communicating. Is that different from what people want to hear?
Right.
And so it's hard to communicate tough questions and tough answers, and we realize that, and I think this is a chance for us to face up to some of those things, because we're not, as you and I have talked, we're not running from anything. And it's also an opportunity for folks to understand some of the behind the scenes that they might not get to see all the time. That there is a lot that goes into our decision making, but you know, purple and white, that's an area where we want to improve our communications, and we get to see a lot of those folks, but we don't get to see a lot of those folks. So how are we making sure that they're engaged in the program? So you and I have talked about a purple and white newsletter. We've talked about, you know, more phone calls and reach out to that group. The Thankathon is always a great success when our student athletes call our purple and white donors to thank them for their contributions throughout the year.
Right. Maybe from there we can jump off about the expectations for the future and what you would like to see our department and our programs become.
Yeah. You know, I think to transition from communication into where we want to go for our expectations, we want more engagement with our fans. And so when we have a season ticket holder exclusive event, or we have an open practice at basketball or hockey, or we have a preseason get-together for one of our sports, you know, that's an expectation that I have, that we will provide more of those opportunities. And then I hope the realization is that more people get involved and more people get excited about coming to those sort of events, because you know, the worst thing is to have an event and a couple people show up. While it's important for those folks and we're thrilled that they're there, we want more people to be excited about it and take advantage of it. So our expectation for ourselves is that we're going to evaluate what's successful and where we can increase our engagement for folks. Overall, when we think about performance expectations, you know, there's no reason why we shouldn't be competing for conference titles. It's been proven at Niagara that you can win. You know, that has happened several times in the past. It's happened recently. We have had success in certain programs. When you're looking across the board, we're not having as much success as we would like. And so our development phase is providing pieces of infrastructure where we can help our coaches recruit and bringing in elite student athletes that can raise our bar competitively. So while we have seen improvement there, as we've talked about several times during this Q&A, that's an expectation for us, is to perform better in programs. And I think we're seeing the improvement, we're seeing the maturation, over time, but that is certainly something that we're going to hold ourselves accountable to. We also want to improve in fundraising. We need to improve in fundraising. We need to enhance our facilities. We need to continue to make things better. We need to get better video content and better enhanced streaming so that we're on ESPN3 more, or we do our own production. So those are some expectations that we have. Also, we're expecting and demanding that we continue our high level of academic excellence. You know, that has been a source of pride at Niagara University. It's been a source of pride within our conferences that we have true student athletes, and we have student athletes that come in, do well in the classroom, graduate, and then go on to successful careers, because that's should be an expectation, an obligation of us, is to develop these students throughout their career so that they go out and be great citizens. And one of the things when we talk to the academic senate, or when we talk to our faculty athletics community, and maybe we don't say this enough out to the general community, the number one major for our student athletes is biology, right? And so I couldn't have succeeded in biology.
No way.
Right? And I didn't have the time demands
Right.
that our individuals are facing on a day-to-day basis. So while we're in a competitive business and folks aren't seeing, you know, or could be disappointed in some of our wins and losses, they cannot be disappointed in how much effort these young folks are putting into attaining their degree, getting good grades, serving the community. You know, we had the second most submissions into the MAC last year for the Good Works Challenge of doing service in the community, and that's increasing this year. Every year we're bringing on more things. We constantly get feedback from folks in the community of how helpful our student athletes and our coaches are in whatever their program is. And so I want people to know that we are steadfastly committed to ramping up and continuing our service into the communities. And so, you know, our expectation is to improve across the board. An expectation is that we're going to implement a winning culture that's focused on the right things. We're going to have priorities. We're going to have a strategic plan that enable us to make tough decisions, but decisions that are going to make us better.
That's great. You know, when I went through all the questions for this Q&A, I had assumed there would be certain questions, and I think we covered them.
Yeah.
I was disappointed there were some questions left off that I thought were going to be there, and
Right.
perhaps you can talk about a question you might have expected from our fan base.
Yeah, maybe not expected, but hoped. You know, and I think we get this here and there, but one of the questions we'd hoped to hear was, how can I help? What can I do to be involved? Because we can't do it alone.
Right.
You and I, our administrative leadership team, everybody in personnel within our athletics department are working incredibly hard and well to get things better, but we can't do it alone. So we want folks to offer their help. What does that mean? It could mean that you're giving to the Purple and White. It could mean that you're buying season tickets. It could mean that when you see one of our student athletes on campus, you're telling them how proud you are and how well they're doing, and ask them about how they're doing in classes, right? Or it could be that, you know, you host an alumni event. If you're outside of this region, you host an alumni event to watch a game, have a game watch party, or something like that. So there's just an incredible amount of ways for people to get involved. One of the focuses we've had is collaboration on campus. You know, that's one of our primary goals, is to intertwine the athletics department throughout campus, whether it's academic affairs, development, any of the financial aid, wherever it is, we want to be a partner. And so we are doing the best that we can to collaborate with folks, and we want the reciprocal. We're getting a lot of benefit back from the university. There's been a lot of strong response this year. We held a college night at our men's basketball games where each college had their night. They all embraced it, and they all had folks come out. I had several people tell me it was the first basketball game at Niagara they had ever attended. What a great time that they had. So those type of innovative and creative partnerships are what we're after, and we're looking people to bring some ideas to us. So it could be creative fundraising events, or it could be, I'm going to bring 15 people to a game. You know, we have group tickets. There's a lot of ways that we will help get people more involved.
Well, that's great. Those are all the questions I had for for you, Simon, through our fans, and I want to thank the fans for submitting the questions and taking a chance to listen to your responses, and I appreciate your time and giving us such thorough answers.
Thanks, and every time you try to wrap up, I say one more thing, Steve, right? Right? That's just how it's been today.
Right.
But there are two things that I think typify who we are, and I want people to recognize these two areas that to me in this past year, it doesn't get much better than that, okay? Our women's lacrosse team has collaborated with an organization that's called Team Impact, and what Team Impact does is they find a young person who's battling a terminal disease, and they understand what their interest is, and then they team up that person, these are in sports, their interests are in sports, with an area of interest. So our lacrosse program has signed Carolyn Reynolds. We hosted a press conference this year, and she's become an integral part of our team. She's at the practices, she's at the games. I'm not sure there's a bigger fan of our lacrosse program than her, and she's a part of that program. And I think the investment that she and her family have made should be commended, but also our student athletes. Our coaches have embraced it, but our student athletes have really embraced having Carolyn as part of the team. And so when you're talking about goosebumps and you're talking about why are we in this business, that's one of the reasons, right? Our basketball team and also our hockey team, a former assistant coach of ours who was able to make this connection with a Make-A-Wish young man who came in this year and was on the bench. One of his brothers sat on the bench for the game, and he was able to bring out the game ball and be with us during the starting lineups and sit there throughout the entire game. It just doesn't get any better than that, right? That's why we're here. That's why we do this business. That's why we're in Division I athletics, is to help people, to bring exposure to the campus through several different mediums. But those are the things that when people get disappointed or frustrated or people are having a bad day, including us, those are the things we have to look for and understand that's why we're in this business.
Yeah, it certainly lifts your spirits and obviously gives us a great name to be the Purple Eagles. So.
Right. So thanks, Steve.
All right.